The next question comes from Sandy Hook, New York. How can you tell if a safety data sheet is properly filled out? And what red flags should I watch for? Safety data sheets used to be called MSDSs. Now the letters used are SDS. These are very important documents. Every salon should have an SDS for each of their professional products. Sometimes one SDS may cover many closely related products. For example, nail polish or colored powders. But usually each product will have its own safety data sheet. In many countries, including the United States, Canada, England, and Australia, it is a requirement to have an up-to-date safety data sheet for all professional products in a salon. For example, in the US, manufacturers are required to provide the safety data sheet to distributors, who are in turn required to provide them to nail professionals, who are in turn required to read and understand the information as it relates to their work and professional services. Whomever sells a professional product to a nail professional is required by regulations to provide safety data sheets, even if the nail professional doesn't request them. Safety data sheets provide important information about working safely with salon products, which is in everyone's best interest. But in order to do so, the safety data sheet must contain specific information, and that information must be accurate. Now, I'm not going to list each section or list all the information that must be found on a safety data sheet, but I will let you know how to easily find that information on the internet. My intention in this episode is to focus on several important things to understand whenever you're looking at a safety data sheet. Now, the first thing to check is product identification. Make sure it's the right safety data sheet and it matches the product name exactly. What? Why do you have to do that? Most manufacturers are happy to provide safety data sheets to nail technicians. However, I've seen quite a few instances where an irresponsible company did not want to provide an SDS for a product when it was requested. In one instance, a nail professional was trying to get a safety data sheet for a nail hardening product. Rather than refuse to provide an SDS, this Florida-based nail company repeatedly sent the wrong safety data sheet. They'd send one written for a different type of product. They claimed to have accidentally sent the wrong safety data sheet, but they repeated this mistake again when they sent the replacement safety data sheet. I suspect they were hoping the nail professional just wouldn't notice, but they were wrong again. I recently saw a safety data sheet sent to someone from a company in China that was supposed to be for a so-called chrome powder. But the SDS was actually for a pearl powder, which is quite different. By the way, none of these powders contain any chrome, so their name is deceptive, just a little bit. They are actually based on pigments such as aluminum, which is an accepted cosmetic colorant. For some reason, this particular company was afraid to let people know what their ingredients were, so they provided a decoy safety data sheet. Clearly, without the correct safety data sheet, you can't make informed choices. Responsible companies don't play irresponsible games. In my view, if a company doesn't provide correct and accurate safety data sheets in a timely fashion, I would not do business with them. Now, you'll also find on the safety data sheet a list of any potentially risky ingredients and their CAS number. As I'll explain to you what that is. Contrary to what many believe, safety data sheets do not list all the ingredients in the product. If that's what you're looking for, you'll be more likely to find this on the product's label. The safety data sheet is required only to list those ingredients that pose a potential risk to users. The CS number is the chemical identification for that ingredient. It's much like a fingerprint identifies a person, the CS number identifies an ingredient. So look for it on safety data sheets. Since a CAS number is required for each potentially risky ingredient. Now, into your search engine, type CAS number sign, and then follow it by the number found on the safety data sheet, and the ingredient name will be provided. Now, you'll quickly discover that many chemicals have very similar names, yet they may be from entirely different families, or they may be completely unrelated to each other. Also, most ingredients have several different names. Now, this can fool inexperienced users, which is why the CAS number is required on the safety data sheet. Chemical names can be pretty tricky, but CAS numbers provide positive identification so you know you're researching the correct ingredient. What about trade secrets? There are many proprietary or secret formulations sold in the professional beauty industry. Companies selling these products consider their information and their formulations to be trade secrets. You may occasionally see a trade secret claim on the SDS. Now, I agree, there should be such a category, because this encourages innovation and it helps protect these companies from copycat companies that just want to steal their ideas. However, there are specific requirements for claiming trade secret status, and it isn't that easy to do. If a formulation qualifies for trade secret status, this allows the company to hide only the identity of specific ingredients, including their names, their CAS numbers, or any other identifiers. But the SDS must still provide all other required information about those ingredients. They can't just be ignored. All a trade secret is supposed to do is protect the ingredient identity, but it does not change the safety data sheet in any other way. If a company uses a trade secret claim to withhold additional required information, this would be another big red flag. Claiming special exemptions or trade secret status to withhold required information is a ploy that's sometimes used to provide skimpy safety data sheets that contain very little information. This is wrong to do and not allowed, but I've seen it done. Now, why would a company do something like this? Well, most companies would not, of course, but some do this either to hide the use of certain ingredients, and that's usually done in order to gain an unfair advantage over their competitors who are playing by the rules, or they'll do this out of ignorance of their responsibility. Hey, both are unacceptable excuses. The reason why this often happens is so the manufacturer can fool the distributor or the nail technicians, or perhaps so they can illegally import products that normally would be confiscated or rejected at the border because they contain unsafe or prohibited ingredients. You'll also find on the safety data sheets risk or hazard identification. Now, if an accidental overexposure occurs, there could be a risk related to skin or eye contact, or there could be a risk from excessive inhalation. Well, if the answer to this is yes, and there is a risk, the safety data sheet will provide more detailed information about the types of risk involved. It will also provide the signs and the symptoms related to overexposure. So if you're able to spot a potential problem or issue as they develop, you start seeing a rash, well, you might know this rash is related to that product. So it can help you identify where the problem is occurring. And it can also help you tell whether a product is capable of causing a skin irritation or an allergy. Can it burn the skin if it's not washed off completely, like some callus treatments are known to do? Does inhalation of excessive amounts cause sore throats or coughing or headaches? All are important things to know if you're a working nail professional. If you start experiencing any adverse reactions of any type, the safety data sheet can help you and your doctor identify any potential culprits. Also, you'll find emergency first aid advice. If overexposure occurs, the safety data sheet can recommend the proper response. Should you wash with soap and water? Should you rinse the eyes out with warm water for 15 minutes? Or should you remove contaminated clothing? Or should you go right to the emergency room? Excuse me. The safety data sheet provides these types of recommendations on a product-by-product basis. You'll also find emergency contact phone numbers that you may use in case of an accident or if you need additional emergency medical information. The SDS also contains proper storage conditions and tells about the flammability of products. The SDS or the safety data sheet can tell you the best way to store your products. This can help maximize their shelf life and prevent hazardous storage conditions that could lead to spills or fires or other problems. If a product is highly flammable, proper storage and handling can be very important to understand to help ensure safety. The SDS also focuses on safe handling. Some of the most valuable information on the safety data sheet explains which types of personal protective equipment that can be used to avoid overexposure and help ensure safe handling. Wearing specific types of gloves or encouraging the use of protective safety eyewear are common recommendations. Ventilation recommendations are also found on the safety data sheet, and this information should be carefully heeded. For many salon products, the use of proper ventilation is an important requirement. The SDS can help identify which products are inhalation risk and how to minimize exposure to keep them at safe levels. Now, many salons don't pay proper attention to these important issues. But the information provided on the safety data sheet can help ensure that nail technicians have long and safe and successful careers. Working safely is much easier to do if you have the correct information. Of course, there is much more information on a safety data sheet, more than ever before. And much of this information is not useful at all to nail technicians. Why is that? Safety data sheets are for everyone, including firefighters, truckers, medical doctors, manufacturing workers, and scientists. A typical safety data sheet will contain 16 different sections, each focus on one important aspect of safety. For example, what to do when cleaning up accidental spills. But don't be intimidated by all this extra information. Instead, seek out the useful information I described above. As the information on the safety data sheet expands, so does its usefulness. But now each of these product sheets is typically between 5 to 15 pages long for one safety data sheet. Now here's another red flag. If you're sent 1 or 2 page safety data sheet, you should be suspicious that the safety data sheet is not complete or not compliant with the regulations. Now, in some unusual cases, it may be possible for a properly filled out safety data sheet to only be 3 pages, but this is becoming increasingly unlikely, and if you're going to write them in a legible typeface, that is. Now, this is all due to the amount of information the safety data sheet must contain. Other than the info I've already discussed, they must contain information about the physical and chemical properties, proper disposal, shipping and transportation, ecological impact, and a list of applicable regulations. That's why, in my opinion, a short safety data sheet is likely to be an incomplete safety data sheet. It is the responsibility of every cosmetic manufacturer, large or small, to fully and faithfully comply with these requirements by providing safety data sheets that are complete and contain all of the required information. It's the responsibility of all manufacturers and their distributors to ensure that the most up-to-date safety data sheets are consistently provided to the end user, which is the nail professional. And these safety data sheets are supposed to be provided even if the nail professional did not ask for them. But that doesn't often happen because of the sheer volume of paper that would be consumed. So it's wise to ask for them. Many companies now offer their safety data sheets online at their website. Now, it's also the salon owner's responsibility to have a safety data sheet for all professional products on site and available for inspection during normal business hours, and to provide training on how to read and understand these important tools. The safety data sheets don't have to be printed hard copies, just so a digital copy can be produced on demand when anyone asks for them during normal business hours or in case of an emergency. Finally, it's the responsibility of all nail technicians to understand how to work safely and wisely with their professional products. A properly filled out safety data sheet is one of the most powerful tools a nail professional has to help ensure they're working safely. Now, if you want to learn more about safety data sheets, type the following into a computer search engine: Understanding SDS Sheets, and you'll be on your way to learning more and to working more safely.